Hello and welcome to Dining with Death, where we discuss infamous cases of death and murder that have an element of food to them, and then we cook the food from the case. I'm Stacy Lee. Let's begin. In the early 1980s, the cities of Los Angeles and San Francisco were terrorized by a madman. A murderer so brutal and terrifying that police officers report still being traumatized by the crime scenes today. Both cities lived in fear for years. They called him the Night Stalker, and little did they know he had been living amongst them for a long time. Richard Ramirez was born Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez on February 29, 1960 in El Paso, Texas. His father, a former Juarez police officer, was prone to fits of anger, and they often resulted in the physical abuse of Richard and his 4 brothers and sisters. 12-year-old Richard strongly admired his older cousin, Miguel, a decorated U.S. Army Green Beret combat veteran who often boasted of his gruesome exploits during the Vietnam War. He even showed young Richard Polaroids of people he had killed and women he had raped. One photo showed Miguel posed with the severed head of a woman he had abused. Richard began smoking pot at the age of 10 and spent a lot of time with this deranged cousin, who taught Richard some of the skills he had learned in the Army, including how to stalk and kill with stealth. Those of us who like true crime and learning about what makes someone a killer know that there's an ongoing conversation about, are they born or are they made? The consensus now is it's a combination of both, with several factors that seem to be common, such as head injuries and childhood abuse, things like that. But you have to really look in this case at, you've got this kid who's probably prone to it anyway. You put him with this deranged cousin who's showing him things no child should be exposed to. And it's like, firing gasoline. Richard was known to escape home when his abusive father was angry and sleep in a local cemetery. On May 4th, 1973, this cousin Miguel shot and killed his wife during an argument. After this incident, Ramirez became sullen and withdrawn. He soon moved in with his older sister and her husband Roberto, who was a peeping Tom. Okay, let's take the strikes against him, the crazy cousin, and add to it a brother-in-law who's a peeping Tom, who takes Richard with him to spy on women. Regardless of whether or not this kid was born bad, he certainly had plenty of horrible role models, making it a lot worse. As a high school student, Richard worked at a local Holiday Inn where he used his passkey to spy on and rob hotel guests. He was fired when a man found Ramirez in his hotel room attempting to rape his wife. He beat Ramirez senseless, but the state had to drop charges against Ramirez when the couple refused to return from out of state to testify against him. Might be time to put on my judgy pants again, because, hello, if you found someone doing that to someone you love, wouldn't you come across the world to make sure they went to prison? Ramirez then dropped out of high school and moved to California, where he settled permanently. Now steeped in violent fantasies and obsessed with Satanism and the occult, Ramirez began a life of murder. He first murdered 9-year-old Mai Ling on April 10, 1984 in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco. I have inner conflict about how much detail to go into on these things, so until I resolve that, we're not going to talk about what he did to this little girl, because I can't stand to talk about it. But it was unspeakable, and he left her body hanging from a pipe in a basement. On June 28, 1984, Ramirez murdered 79-year-old Jenny Vinco in Los Angeles. She had been stabbed repeatedly in her sleep, and her throat was slashed so deeply she was nearly decapitated. Ramirez left fingerprints on the mesh screen he used to gain access, and those would eventually come back to help catch him. He then attacked 22-year-old Maria Hernandez in Rosemead, California. He shot her after she pulled into his garage. She survived when the bullet ricocheted off the keys she held in her hand when she lifted them to protect her face. He then went into the house where he confronted her roommate, Doyle Yoshi Okazaki, who he then shot in the forehead, killing her instantly. Within an hour of this home invasion, Ramirez shot and killed 30-year-old Tsai Lian Wu. Witnesses reported seeing a curly-haired, wild-eyed man with rotting teeth. In our episode about Ted Bundy, we talk about how you kind of envision these murderous, wild sprees of killing that he went on as being committed by a monster, but that he was actually very calm and very handsome. Well, not so the case with Richard Ramirez. Richard Ramirez looked like a monster, and Richard Ramirez was a monster. The killings continued, and soon the murder count was at 13. The Night Stalker attacked people of every age and race, and did so with such viciousness that the crime scenes looked like something out of a horror movie. On August 30th, 1985, Ramirez took a bus to Tucson, Arizona to visit his brother. He did not know at the time that police had identified him through that fingerprint and witness testimony, and they had released a mugshot of his face at a press conference where they announced, "We now know who you are, and soon everyone else will. There will be no place you can hide." And boy, did that turn out to be prophetic. For some reason, Ramirez never met with his brother in Tucson and returned to Los Angeles by bus early on the morning of August 31st. He slipped by police officers who were staking out the bus terminal and into a convenience store in East Los Angeles. It was then that he saw a group of elderly Mexican women pointing at him and saying, "El Matador," the killer. He then saw his face on the front pages of every newspaper in the store and ran from the store in a panic. He ran across the Santa Ana freeway and attempted to carjack a woman, but was chased away by bystanders who pursued him. He hopped over several fences and attempted 2 more carjackings, but was then subdued and beaten severely by residents. One man struck him over the head with a metal bar, causing a large gash to his head. The group held Ramirez down and beat him relentlessly until the police arrived and took him into custody. I'm sorry, but I get a kick out of that story. Wouldn't you love to just be able to get your hands on one of these guys and do some damage? Maybe that's just me. They're terrible people, and I don't feel bad that he got beaten. Ramirez went to trial in July of 1988. He showed up with a pentagram drawn on his hand and yelled, "Hail Satan," in court. Okay, for you youngsters, in the 80s there was this thing called satanic panic, where people were convinced that rock music and horror movies were making people do bad things. I find the whole notion to be ridiculous, and it's been disproven. But you have to understand, this was a real thing in the 80s, and Ramirez played right into it. He was eventually convicted of all charges: 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. He was sentenced to die in California's gas chamber. After the sentencing, he stated to reporters, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland." Ugh, just trying way too hard to be some cartoon version of a bad guy or something. I don't know. In prison, Ramirez scored a 31 out of 40 on Hare's psychopathy checklist, which makes him a primary psychopath. He also had sadistic and schizoid traits and may have suffered from schizophrenia as well, which was made worse by cocaine, LSD, and PCP usage. Unfortunately, the state never got to fill the death sentence. Ramirez died of liver failure related to substance abuse and hepatitis at 53 years of age on June 7, 2013. He had been on death row for more than 23 years. During his killing spree, Ramirez was known to go in and out of many Los Angeles businesses, but it seems his favorite place to eat was Margarita's Place. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Margarita's Place. Margarita's Place is a Mexican restaurant, more of a taco stand, located in downtown Los Angeles. Their website says open since 2000, so I called to make sure and was told yes, this is the same place Ramirez frequented, so maybe there was either a short closure or a move. In 1985, a waiter told the Los Angeles Times that Ramirez was always alone and that he, quote, looked like he was scared of something, unquote. A cook from Margarita's Place also said Ramirez always seemed worried about something whenever they made eye contact. The small restaurant is a 24-hour eatery and is still serving up tacos at the edge of Skid Row. The menu has classic Mexican fare like tacos, tortas, tamales, and burritos, and some more Americanized dishes like nachos, carne asada fries, and fried chicken. The food is cheap and quick and available at all hours. It's not a fancy place, as you can see, and it's not uncommon to see homeless people and folks down on their luck in the area, but it has its loyal customers, and the food must be good for them to be in business for so long. So stay with me as I make one of my favorite tacos: grilled salmon with pickled Anaheim chilies and onions, mango salsa, and an incredible creamy spicy dressing. Mexican-inspired fare from Margarita's Place, the favorite eatery of Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, as we go dining with death. We are ready to cook, and we're gonna make some kind of different salmon tacos. They've got some unexpected ingredients in them, but I promise you they are so good.
The first thing we're going to do is make a mango salsa with 2 mangoes, half of a red onion, 2 jalapenos, the juice of 1 lime, and a bunch of cilantro. Peel those mangoes using a really sharp paring knife. They're a little bit slippery, so make sure you've got a good grip on those things. I have cut myself once. Then you're going to remove what they call the cheeks of the mango, which are the 2 fatter sides that run alongside that big pit, and then the little fingers of the mango, which are the 2 skinny little pieces along the sides of the pit. Get those as small dice. You want those pieces to be a little bit smaller than if you were just eating the mango as a treat, because they are going into a chopped salsa. Give your red onion a really small dice. Red onion is pretty powerful, as you know, so a little piece goes a long way in a raw dish, when you're using it raw, I should say. Add that into your mango, and then give those jalapenos a cleaning. Remove all of that pith, and I remove the seeds just because they're so hot when they have the seeds and kind of take over the salsa. So just clean out that pith. You can use a knife if you want. I like to press them flat and then give them a really small slice and then a little tiny dice. Roll that cilantro up, makes it easier to chop. Give it a rough chop and then run your knife through it a couple of times so you've got it chopped up nice and fine. And then roll that lime to get the juices flowing. Squeeze all of that great juice in, a little pinch of salt, a little bit of black pepper. Give it a stir, and you have got a beautiful and fresh mango salsa.
I've got about 1.5 cups of apple cider vinegar with 1.5 cups of water in this container here. And then I've got about 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. I would say 3 tablespoons of salt, maybe 2.5, and then 3 or 4 tablespoons of sugar. So the sugar, the salt, and the pepper are all going to go into the vinegar and water. Give that a good stir. And my water is really hot, and so the sugar and the salt will dissolve. You can boil it really quickly if you wanted to, but it's really not necessary if you use hot water because those things will dissolve on their own. And this lasts in the fridge for a really long time as well. So it's something you can kind of have on hand and put on a lot of different things. Normally I use a couple of Anaheim chilies when I make this every couple of weeks, but look at this thing. So I'll probably just use this one. So I've split those and cleaned them. I'm gonna kind of press them flat like I would with a jalapeno. Probably cut those down the center because we want small enough pieces that if we drop them onto a smaller thing like a taco, you're not gonna have like a giant piece of pepper on there. Drop all those into the vinegar solution, the pickling solution. This is a quick pickle. And let's break our onion down. Just kind of take your fingers and break those pieces apart. So you're left with halves that are then halved. So like a little quarter of an onion piece. And now let's put our onions in with the peppers and the pickling solution. Press everything down into the vinegar. Give it a good mix. And this is a great condiment that you can put on meat, fish, seafood, whatever you like, a little spice and a little onion and a little bite too. Although these tacos are not very authentic, I do like cabbage on my tacos, which is much more authentic Mexican food than lettuce. So I'm going to slice a little bit of cabbage, and I always like a squeeze of lime, so we're going to make some lime wedges. Roll those limes, get that juice flowing. And then just get rid of the outer edge of the cabbage, and we'll give it a really thin slice, smaller pieces, so you can easily lay those inside your taco. You can break that cabbage up a little bit. That's way more cabbage than we need, but we can use it for other things. Put those little lime wedges on the plate, and it'll be ready for us when we're ready to put the tacos together. Okay, here's where things go a little off the rails. I live in the Southwest, and we take a lot of liberties with tacos. And this was gonna have some Asian ingredients. I promise you are gonna love this sauce if you try it. It's a little scary to tell you what's in it, but it's delicious. I've got about a 1/4 cup of ranch dressing here. And if you love your ranch like we love our ranch, well, you're gonna like this sauce. This is gochujang. If you're not familiar with this, this is a Korean ingredient. It's a hot pepper paste. It's delicious. It has so much umami flavor and really nice, warm, round heat. It's one of my favorite things to cook with. I love cooking Korean food. And then I'm gonna use a little splash of mirin. I know this sounds weird. It's a really good sauce for these salmon tacos. I'm gonna put not quite a teaspoon of gochujang into this 1/4 cup of ranch. I'm gonna put a splash of mirin, which is sweet cooking rice seasoning. This is usually used with sushi rice, and it's used in a lot of other Asian dishes, but just a splash. And then whisk this up. The sweetness of the ranch and the smoky pepper flavor of the gochujang is really good together. And the vinegar gives it a little bit better texture for a sauce and a little bit of acid. So, it's weird, and it's really, really good. Here I have 2 big, beautiful pieces of salmon. I'm gonna season them with just a little bit of salt and pepper because we've got so much else going on with these tacos. And then I'm gonna put them on the grill. Okay, the beautiful salmon is off the grill, and it smells really, really good. It is time to put together these tacos. I've got a couple of corn tortillas here, and I'm just gonna give them a quick fry in vegetable oil. I know it adds fat and calories, but they're so much better when they're fried. There's so much stuff I can't even get it all in the frame. But we have our mango salsa, we've got our cabbage and lime, we've got our salmon and our shells, our pickled peppers and onions, and our kind of weird but really delicious sauce. So let's make these tacos. I can't wait to eat these. We make these kind of often, but they're always so good. Let's get a nice piece of salmon. Ooh, that's a little much for one little taco. Let's lay down a little cabbage. Some of these quick pickles. I just eat these with a fork out of the fridge sometimes. The pickled onions, there's something about a pickled onion, I don't know, maybe I'm alone in that, but I just love them. And those little pieces of barely spicy, but very flavorful Anaheim chilies are so good. Got our beautiful mango salsa. And finally, this really unusual spicy ranch dressing. Half of you are probably like, gross, and the other half of you are like, I'm gonna do that. Look at this little guy. So much good stuff in just a few little bites, right? I'm gonna give it a squeeze of lime and a taste. This is not gonna be pretty, but it is gonna be good. Wow, that is good. I'm sure I've got it all over my face. You get the mango right off of the bat, the sweetness of the mango, and then the smokiness of that gochujang. I'm telling you, it's so good with this. There's crunch from the cabbage and the pickled onions and pickled peppers, and a little creaminess from that dressing. The cabbage, of course, is very traditional and kind of gives you that nice crunch. The corn tortilla is rich and a little bit greasy. And that bite had a lot more salmon. The salmon is so rich and fatty. And even for people that don't like fish, you like salmon, right? I know you don't all like salmon, but salmon is so good and so good for you. It's really, really good with the corn tortilla and all of these ingredients. I'm gonna have another messy bite because I have to. I'm already a mess. Look at me. It's like the rules. Thank you for joining me today as we discussed the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, and made salmon tacos inspired by his favorite restaurant, Margarita's Place. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and thanks again for joining me today as we went dining with death.